It was a warm, sunny afternoon in the city, the kind of day where the streets were alive with people walking, children laughing, and the distant hum of traffic blending with birdsong in the park. The benches along the winding paths were dotted with people taking breaks, enjoying the sunshine, or simply watching the world go by. One bench in particular held a young girl, her white cane resting gently across her lap. She was blind, but that did not stop her from exploring the world with confidence and careful curiosity. Today, she had chosen this park for a moment of peace, to feel the sun on her face and the wind brushing through her hair. The girl had always been careful in public spaces. She had learned early on to listen for cues, to sense movement and energy around her, and to trust her instincts. She often walked alone, and the world around her had become a place of sounds, textures, and feelings that guided her safely. The city could be overwhelming for anyone, but for her, it was a place full of hidden stories, waiting to be discovered in the sounds of conversations, the rhythm of footsteps, or the rustle of leaves overhead. As she sat on the bench, enjoying the calm moment, she felt a sudden tension in the air. A police officer had approached her, his expression tight and his voice sharp. He began questioning her, demanding to know why she was sitting there. The girl blinked in surprise, taken aback by the intensity of his approach. She tried to explain calmly that she was simply taking a break, that she had done nothing wrong. But the officer seemed uninterested in her words, his tone growing firmer, his posture rigid, almost threatening. The girl's heart began to race. She could feel the heat rising in her chest, the sudden uncertainty in the world around her. The familiar comfort of the park now felt distant, replaced by an invisible pressure pressing down on her. She could hear people walking by, their footsteps hesitant as they noticed the confrontation. Whispers started to ripple through the nearby crowd, murmurs of concern as people realized that something was not right. It was clear to everyone that the girl was being treated unfairly. A few onlookers paused, watching the interaction with worry. Among them were two men who were immediately recognizable to anyone with even a passing knowledge of popular culture. They had been walking through the park, enjoying the day themselves, when they noticed the tense scene unfolding. One of them was tall, with a commanding presence and a calm intensity in his eyes. The other carried a different kind of energy, steady and grounded, yet unmistakably protective. They quickly realized that the girl needed help, that this was not a situation to ignore. Without hesitation, the two men approached, their steps purposeful but careful, so as not to startle the girl further. The taller of the two spoke first, his voice calm but firm, carrying a weight that made people stop and listen. He asked the officer to step back and explain what was happening. His companion reinforced the sentiment, making it clear that the girl had done nothing wrong and deserved to be treated with respect. The officer hesitated, clearly unprepared for this intervention. For a moment, the tension wavered, and the girl sensed a small relief, a flicker of hope that someone would stand with her. The taller man knelt beside her, speaking in a gentle tone to reassure her. He introduced himself and his companion, explaining that they were there to make sure she felt safe. The girl listened, feeling the kindness and sincerity in their voices, and slowly began to breathe a little easier. The officer, sensing the growing attention from the crowd and the influence of the two men, straightened, trying to regain control, but the energy around him had shifted. People passing by began to gather at a respectful distance, forming an informal circle of witnesses. Some had already taken out their phones ready to record, while others simply watched, silently supporting the girl. The men remained calm and composed, their presence alone providing a shield of safety. The girl felt a warmth spread through her chest, not just from the sun, but from the realization that she was not alone, that others were willing to stand up for her in a moment of vulnerability. The officer continued to speak, still insisting on his authority, but now his words lacked the same force. The taller man explained that public spaces belong to everyone, and that no one should feel threatened or harassed simply for being themselves. His companion added that the girl had every right to enjoy the park, and that trying to intimidate her was wrong. Their voices were steady, clear, and unyielding, yet there was no aggression, only a firm insistence on fairness and decency. The girl listened quietly, her initial fear slowly giving way to a sense of security. She could feel the tension in her shoulders easing, her heartbeat gradually slowing. The two men's presence was a reminder that there are people who will act when they see injustice, who will speak up for those who cannot fight alone. The crowd, now fully attentive, began to murmur words of encouragement, showing their support without needing to say much. As the minutes passed, the officer seemed to realize the futility of continuing his approach. The men's calm authority, the attentive crow. The day in the park had shifted after the initial confrontation. The girl, though still shaken, began to feel a sense of calm knowing that two protective and authoritative figures were nearby. The taller man, kneeling beside her, spoke gently, assuring her that she was safe now. His companion, standing with an alert stance, was ready to step in at any sign of trouble. The girl could sense their presence, like a shield of calm and strength wrapping around her, and she allowed herself to breathe more deeply for the first time since the encounter had begun. As the officer lingered, uncertain and somewhat embarrassed by the unexpected intervention, the crowd of onlookers grew more attentive. People whispered to each other about what had just happened. Some had been skeptical about the officer's intentions, while others had been worried for the girl. The presence of the two men had made a difference, giving everyone a subtle signal that the situation needed to be treated with care and fairness. The girl could hear the murmurs of the crowd, a chorus of concern and support that made her feel less alone. The taller man leaned slightly closer to her, speaking in a calm, encouraging voice. He asked if she was all right, if she needed any assistance to move or feel more secure. She shook her head gently, her fingers brushing the cane as she adjusted it for comfort. She was nervous, but she appreciated the respect in his tone and the way he spoke without rushing or imposing. It was a relief to feel heard and understood, especially after the initial intimidation from the officer. The other man spoke to the officer directly, keeping his tone firm but not aggressive. He explained that the girl had every right to be in the park, and that harassing someone because of their disability was unacceptable. His words were clear and steady, carrying authority without anger. The officer shifted uncomfortably, realizing that he was being watched not just by the crowd but by two individuals who commanded attention and respect. There was a moment of silence, as if the officer was weighing his options, aware that any further misstep could make the situation worse. The girl listened quietly, processing the words around her. She could feel the tension in the air, but she also felt a subtle shift. The two men's calm confidence had begun to transform the scene. What had started as a moment of fear was slowly turning into a moment of protection and support. She could sense the concern of the bystanders as well, a collective awareness that someone needed to ensure she was treated fairly. One of the men, kneeling at her side, suggested a way to resolve the situation peacefully. He explained that the officer could apologize, and that would allow everyone to move forward without conflict. The girl felt a small spark of hope. She had never expected such a public intervention, especially from figures she had only seen on screens and in stories. It was surreal, yet deeply comforting to know that these people had chosen to step in for her. The officer, still trying to maintain authority, seemed unsure how to respond. The taller man remained patient, speaking slowly and clearly, emphasizing that an apology would be the right step. His companion, standing slightly behind, added weight to the request, making it clear that the officer's behavior was being witnessed and judged by the crowd and bystanders. The girl felt the strength of their presence, a steady support that made it easier to remain calm despite the residual fear. People in the park were beginning to record the interaction on their phones, capturing the moment for social media and for others to see. Some whispered encouragement to the girl, while others nodded quietly in approval of the two men's actions. The atmosphere had shifted from one of tension to one of observation and support. The girl could feel the collective energy of the crowd, a wave of concern and empathy that made her realize she was not alone. As the minutes passed, the officer's stance began to soften. He took a step back, almost as if he had recognized the impact of his behavior. The taller man continued to speak calmly, reassuring the girl that she had nothing to fear and that people would stand with her if needed. His companion remained alert, ready to intervene but also conveying a sense of patience and understanding. Their presence alone created a space where the girl could feel safe, even as the officer hesitated nearby. The girl began to respond in small ways. She shifted her cane slightly, indicating that she was ready to continue eating but appreciated the protection. She spoke softly, thanking the men for their help. Her voice was quiet but filled with gratitude. The taller man smiled gently, acknowledging her thanks and reminded her that she had every right to be in the park. His companion nodded, reinforcing that she should never feel afraid to assert her place in public spaces. The officer finally spoke, his voice tentative and less harsh than before. He offered a brief apology, though it was clear that it was reluctant. The girl accepted it quietly, relieved that the confrontation was coming to an end. The taller man continued to kneel beside her for a few moments, ensuring that she felt secure and understood. His companion remained standing, a quiet guardian, making sure the situation did not escalate again. The crowd began to disperse slowly, their attention now shifting back to their own activities, but not before several people offered supportive smiles or words to the girl. She felt a sense of warmth in her chest, realizing that even in a moment of fear, kindness and courage could appear. The two men stayed with her for a little longer, engaging in light conversation to help her feel at ease. They spoke about the park, the weather, and the simple joys of being outdoors, helping to normalize the environment once more. The girl began to feel her confidence returning. She could navigate the space with her cane, feeling the textures beneath her fingertips and the rhythm of footsteps around her. The taller man explained that it was always okay to ask for help when needed, and that standing up for oneself was also important. His companion added that courage could take many forms, sometimes showing up as patience, sometimes as action, but always with respect for others. As the sun began to shift in the sky, casting longer shadows across the paths, the girl felt a renewed sense of strength. She had faced fear moments ago, yet she had also witnessed the power of compassion and protection. The two men's intervention had created a safe space for her, a buffer against the uncertainty of the world. She realized that sometimes help could come from the most unexpected places, and that support from others could make even the most frightening situations manageable. The officer, now distant and quieter, seemed to reflect on his actions. The girl could hear his footsteps moving away, a subtle sign that the confrontation had ended. The crowd's murmurs shifted back to normal conversation, laughter, and the sounds of everyday life in the park. She felt a sense of relief, mingled with gratitude for the people who had chosen to intervene on her behalf. The taller man knelt for a final moment, giving her words of encouragement. He reminded her that she had nothing to fear, and that the world could be challenging but also full of people willing to do the right thing. His companion nodded, reinforcing the message with a steady presence. The girl felt the strength of their support lingering even as they began to move away, a reassuring shadow of protection. The girl stood slowly, adjusting her cane and taking in the environment around her. The sounds of the park, the chatter of children, the rustle of leaves, the distant hum of traffic felt more vibrant now. She could sense the crowd's goodwill, the awareness that people were watching and caring in subtle ways. Her steps were steady, her movements confident, and she felt a growing sense of empowerment. She realized that she could face the world with courage, especially knowing that there are people willing to act when they see injustice. As she walked along the path, guided by her cane, she reflected on the experience. She had been scared, yes, but she had also been supported, protected, and understood. The intervention of the two men had transformed a frightening situation into a lesson in empathy, kindness, and courage. She felt a deep sense of gratitude, knowing that even strangers could become allies when needed. The park seemed more welcoming now, a place where she could enjoy the sun and the fresh air without fear. The day continued, filled with ordinary sounds and sights, but the girl carried with her the extraordinary memory of what had just occurred. She understood that courage and protection could take many forms, from gentle words to firm stances, and that standing up for someone in need could create ripples of change. The presence of the two men had not just helped her, it had reminded everyone watching that fairness and respect are worth defending. The girl found a quiet spot further along the path, sitting on another bench and letting herself relax. She felt a sense of safety, of having been seen and supported. She listened to the sounds around her, feeling the textures and the rhythm of life in the park, and allowed herself a small, genuine smile. The day had started like any other, but it had become something unforgettable. A story of fear transformed into protection, anxiety transformed into reassurance, and uncertainty transformed into courage. Even as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, The girl felt a lingering warmth from the events of the afternoon. The two men, now out of sight, had left a lasting impact, demonstrating that empathy and action can create safety and hope. She felt stronger, more confident, and deeply aware of the kindness that exists in the world. And as she continued her walk, guided by her cane and the lessons of the day, she carried with her a renewed belief in the power of courage, support, and human connection. And the girl's own composed responses had created a situation where it was clear who was right. The officer's stern expression softened, and he took a step back. The girl, still gripping her cane, felt a cautious relief. She was still shaken, but the fear that had gripped her moments ago was beginning to fade. The taller man stayed kneeling beside her, speaking in a kind tone, explaining that it was okay to feel scared, but that she had nothing to apologize for. His companion remained standing, a silent pillar of support, making sure that the officer did not approach again. Together, they provided a buffer between her and the lingering tension, allowing her to regain a sense of calm and control. The girl's fingers brushed along her cane, feeling the familiar grooves and textures, grounding herself in the physical reality around her. She listened to the voices of the two men, steady and reassuring, and allowed herself to take a few deep breaths. The crowd's attention, once intimidating, now felt protective. She was not alone. There were people who understood that she deserved respect, who were willing to stand with her even when the odds seemed uneven. A soft breeze blew through the park, rustling the leaves overhead and carrying with it the distant sounds of children playing. The girl closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself absorb the calm after the storm. She felt gratitude for the strangers who had become allies, for the unexpected protection that had arrived when she needed it most. The two men, sensing her growing comfort, began to step back slightly, giving her space while remaining close enough to ensure her safety. As they moved away, the girl opened her eyes and listened to the hum of the park, the sound of people walking, talking, and living their lives. The tension had lifted, replaced by a sense of normalcy, but the memory of the confrontation lingered. She knew that fear could appear suddenly without warning, but she also knew. The sun had begun to tilt slightly toward the west, casting soft golden light across the park paths. The girl, still holding her white cane, felt a growing sense of courage as she walked with careful steps. The events earlier had left a lasting impression on her. The intervention of the two men, figures who seemed almost larger than life, had shown her that even in moments of fear, there were people who would stand up for what was right. It was a lesson she would carry with her forever. The taller man had stayed close, his presence steady and reassuring. He noticed the girl's cautious movements and spoke quietly, giving her gentle instructions on how to navigate the uneven path ahead. His companion remained just a few steps behind, eyes scanning the surroundings to ensure no one threatened her again. Their attention was subtle, not overwhelming, but it created an invisible safety net that allowed her to move forward with confidence. As they walked, the girl reflected on how quickly a simple afternoon could turn tense. One moment she had been enjoying a peaceful break, listening to the birds and the rustle of leaves, and the next moment she had been confronted by an authority figure who made her feel uneasy and unsafe. But then, in the midst of that fear, unexpected allies had appeared. She realized that courage could be found in others, and that even strangers could become protectors in the right moment. The crowd in the park had begun to thin, but there were still people watching from a distance. Many had been quietly moved by what they had seen. It was rare to witness someone being treated unfairly, and then see immediate intervention to ensure justice. The girl could hear snippets of conversation as people discussed what had happened. Some expressed relief that she was safe, while others speculated about the courage it took for the two men to step in. She felt a deep sense of gratitude that so many people had cared even from afar. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. She could feel the energy shift, a mixture of curiosity and concern from those nearby. The taller man spoke softly, guiding her to pause for a moment. He explained that it was important to remain aware of the surroundings, not out of fear but as a precaution. His calm, measured tone helped her focus, and she took a few steady breaths, feeling the rhythm of her steps align with the cadence of the park around her. The officer, who had confronted her earlier, was now further away, but his presence still lingered in her mind. She could feel the tension from the earlier encounter slowly fading, replaced by a sense of empowerment. She had faced a challenging situation, and thanks to the support she had received, she had come through it with her dignity intact. The taller man noticed her shifting emotions and smiled encouragingly, reinforcing that she had handled herself well. As they moved further along the path, the taller man began to share stories of times when he had witnessed unfair situations and had stepped in to help. His voice was calm and engaging, filled with empathy and understanding. The girl listened attentively, feeling inspired by the examples he shared. It was one thing to experience kindness, but another to hear firsthand how others had acted courageously. The stories painted a picture of a world where people could make a difference. Even in small moments, his companion chimed in occasionally, offering insights and observations that added depth to the conversation. He spoke about patience, respect, and the importance of understanding others' perspectives. The girl found herself absorbing these lessons, feeling her confidence grow with each step. She realized that courage was not just about bold actions. It was also about patience, empathy, and the willingness to support others without judgment. The park itself seemed to respond to the change in energy. Birds sang more freely, leaves rustled in gentle breezes, and the sunlight danced through the branches, casting shifting patterns on the ground. The girl felt connected to the world around her, more aware of its beauty and its challenges. She understood that life could present obstacles, but also that there were people willing to help, and that support could appear when least expected. As they continued walking, the taller man asked the girl about her day before the confrontation. She described her morning, her favorite spots in the park, and how she liked to spend her time outside. His companion listened attentively, occasionally asking questions that encouraged her to share more. The conversation was light, natural, and filled with genuine interest. For the girl, it was a welcome distraction from the earlier tension and a reminder that the world could be kind and welcoming. The officer's distant figure faded into the background, and the girl began to feel a sense of freedom. She could move without fear, guided by her cane and the support of those who had intervened. The taller man explained that it was okay to be cautious, but also important to embrace moments of independence and confidence. The companion reinforced this message, highlighting that small steps forward were just as important as big actions. At one point, the girl stopped near a fountain, the sound of flowing water filling her ears. She took a moment to feel the cool mist on her face and the vibrations of the water under her fingertips. The taller man encouraged her to explore the area, to experience the textures and sounds around her. His companion stayed nearby, ready to assist if needed, but allowing her the space to discover for herself. It was a balance of support and independence that made her feel empowered. People continued to pass by, some stopping briefly to acknowledge the girl's presence and offer smiles of encouragement. She could sense the positive energy around her, the subtle but meaningful gestures that reinforced her sense of safety and belonging. The taller man reminded her that these small interactions were a part of life, and that kindness often appears in unexpected ways. His companion nodded, emphasizing that awareness and empathy could make the world a better place for everyone. As they walked on, the girl reflected on the lessons of the day. She had faced fear, experienced vulnerability, and yet also encountered courage, protection, and empathy. She realized that even in a world that could sometimes feel harsh or unfair, there were moments of grace and humanity that could restore faith in others. The taller man's stories and the companion's insights had deepened her understanding of how people can make a difference, and how small acts of courage can ripple outward. The sunlight shifted further, casting longer shadows across the paths. The girl felt a sense of calm determination. She could navigate the world with confidence, and she knew that support would appear when needed. The taller man reminded her to trust her instincts and to know that asking for help was a sign of strength, not weakness. The companion reinforced this message, highlighting the importance of self-respect and the value of standing up for oneself. They passed by a group of children playing near a swing set. The girl listened to their laughter and felt a connection to their carefree energy. The taller man pointed out how observing joy and positivity in others could be a source of strength and motivation. His companion added that even small moments of happiness could remind us why it's important to protect and support one another. The girl felt the truth in their words, appreciating the balance of caution and optimism that had guided her through the day. As the walk continued, The girl encountered small obstacles, a slightly uneven path, a low-hanging branch, but she navigated each one with growing confidence. The taller man offered guidance when necessary, but mostly allowed her to lead herself. His companion remained vigilant, scanning the surroundings to ensure there were no surprises. The girl felt a sense of pride in her ability to move safely and independently, reinforced by the knowledge that support was always nearby. Eventually, they reached a quiet section of the park, away from the main paths and crowds. The taller man encouraged the girl to take a moment to sit and reflect on the day. She felt the warmth of the sun on her face and listened to the gentle rustle of leaves, appreciating the peace and calm of the space. The companion reminded her that taking time to rest and recharge was important, and that self-care was a vital part. The afternoon sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting warm patterns across the park paths. The girl, guided by her white cane, felt a sense of calm she had not experienced earlier in the day. The events with the officer were fading into memory, replaced by the steady presence of the two men who had stepped in to protect her. They walked alongside her, offering subtle guidance and quiet reassurance. The taller man's voice remained calm and encouraging, while his companion's watchful stance offered comfort without being intrusive. The girl began to notice the little things around her, the distant laughter of children, the soft hum of a nearby fountain, the gentle rustle of leaves stirred by the wind. Each sound and sensation reminded her that the world could still be beautiful, even after a frightening encounter. The taller man spoke gently about appreciating these small moments, explaining that noticing and valuing life's simple joys could provide strength and peace in difficult times. His companion nodded, reinforcing the idea that awareness and gratitude could help build resilience. They moved slowly through the park, allowing the girl to navigate familiar paths while offering support when needed. The taller man shared stories about moments when he had witnessed injustice and had chosen to act, emphasizing the importance of speaking up and helping those who might not be able to defend themselves. His words were calm but powerful, painting a picture of courage that did not rely on anger or force but on empathy and integrity. The girl listened intently, absorbing the lessons and feeling a growing sense of empowerment. The companion added perspective, speaking about patience, understanding, and the subtle ways one could make a positive impact on others' lives. He emphasized that courage sometimes came in quiet forms, through listening, through careful observation, through being present when someone needed support. The girl felt inspired by these insights, realizing that she too could act with courage in her own ways, even in situations that seemed overwhelming or intimidating. As they walked, the girl felt her confidence returning. She encountered small obstacles like uneven paths and low-hanging branches, but with guidance from the taller man and the watchful support of his companion, she navigated them with grace. Each step reinforced her independence, while the presence of her protectors reminded her that she was never alone. The balance between autonomy and support created a sense of empowerment that resonated deeply within her. They approached a quiet corner of the park, where a small pond reflected the afternoon sunlight. The taller man encouraged the girl to pause and take in the sounds and sensations around her. She listened to the gentle lapping of water, the distant chirping of birds, and the faint rustle of grass beneath footsteps. The companion reminded her that taking time to reflect and appreciate these moments was important, and that self-awareness could strengthen resilience and confidence. The girl spoke softly about her feelings, sharing the mix of fear, relief, and gratitude she had experienced. The taller man listened with empathy, validating her emotions without judgment. He explained that it was natural to feel vulnerable after a confrontation, but that recognizing one's own strength and the support of others could transform fear into confidence. His companion reinforced the message, emphasizing that the presence of allies could empower individuals to face challenges with greater clarity and courage. As the sun dipped lower, casting longer shadows, the girl felt a sense of peace. She realized that the day had been a journey of learning and growth. She had faced fear, experienced protection, and discovered the power of empathy and courage. The taller man reminded her that these experiences could shape how she approached future challenges, teaching her to trust her instincts and to recognize the value of kindness and support. The companion added that understanding the perspectives of others and acting with compassion could create positive change in the world. They continued through the park, encountering other people along the way. Some offered smiles of encouragement while others whispered words of admiration for her courage. The girl felt a sense of connection, understanding that human support could appear in both subtle and profound ways. She realized that everyone has the ability to impact the lives of others, sometimes with small gestures, sometimes with decisive action, but always with intent and awareness. The taller man encouraged her to explore new paths within the park, to test her independence while knowing that guidance was nearby if needed. She moved with confidence, feeling the textures of the paths beneath her feet and listening closely to the ambient sounds around her. The companion observed attentively, ensuring safety while allowing her the freedom to navigate independently. Each successful step reinforced her sense of empowerment, a tangible reminder that she could face the world with confidence. They reached a small garden, where flowers of various colors and scents filled the air. The taller man guided her to the edge of the flower beds, describing the textures, colors, and arrangements in a vivid but accessible way. The girl felt the petals and leaves gently with her fingers, appreciating the sensory richness that surrounded her. The companion noted how engaging with one's environment could bring calm and focus, strengthening both emotional and mental resilience. The conversation turned to the lessons of the day. The taller man explained that standing up for others, showing empathy, and acting with integrity were not always easy, but they were vital for building trust and safety in communities. The companion added that witnessing and supporting courage in others could inspire similar actions in the future. The girl reflected on her experience, understanding that the intervention she had received was not just about her safety, but about demonstrating the impact of kindness, courage, and moral responsibility. They continued their walk, the golden sunlight now soft and warm on their skin. The girl noticed the subtle changes in the park, the way shadows stretched across paths, the coolness of shaded areas, the gentle sounds of water from nearby fountains. She felt a growing sense of confidence, appreciating that she could navigate these spaces safely and enjoyably. The taller man encouraged her to trust her senses, while the companion highlighted the importance of observation and awareness. At one point, they came across a small group of people sitting quietly, some sketching, others reading. The girl paused to listen to the distant murmur of conversation and the faint scratch of pencil on paper. She felt a connection to these ordinary moments of life, understanding that even amidst challenges, the world is filled with instances of peace, creativity, and joy. The taller man explained that noticing these moments can provide balance, helping one recover from fear or stress. The companion reminded her that every experience, whether difficult or uplifting, contributes to personal growth. He emphasized that resilience is built not only through facing fear, but also through reflecting on positive experiences and the support received from others. The girl absorbed these insights, feeling a sense of clarity and empowerment that strengthened her resolve to move confidently through the world. As the sun continued to set, casting warm hues across the park, the girl found a quiet bench to rest. She sat, feeling the textures beneath her, the rhythm of life around her, and the lingering warmth of the day. The taller man and his companion remained nearby, providing a sense of security without overwhelming her. The girl reflected on the journey, the fear, the support, the lessons, and the moments of calm and beauty. She understood that these experiences had shaped her day and her perspective in profound ways. The taller man spoke softly, reinforcing that courage, empathy, and kindness are tools that anyone can wield to make the world better. The companion added that supporting others in moments of vulnerability is a powerful act, creating ripples that extend far beyond the immediate situation. The girl felt the truth in their words, understanding that the intervention she had received was a reminder of humanity's potential for goodness. The evening approached, and the park began to quiet down. The girl rose from the bench, ready to continue her journey. She felt a renewed sense of independence and empowerment, strengthened by the presence and guidance of the two men who had intervened on her behalf. She knew that challenges might arise again, but she also knew that courage, empathy, and human connection could provide support and protection in ways both large and small. The girl continued to walk, guided by her cane, aware of her surroundings and filled with a sense of gratitude. The taller man and his companion gradually stepped back, allowing her to take the lead while remaining available if needed. She felt the balance of independence and support, a combination that allowed her to navigate confidently and with awareness. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the girl realized that the day had transformed her in subtle but profound ways. She had faced fear, experienced protection, learned lessons in courage and empathy, and discovered the strength that comes from human connection. She understood that the world can present challenges, but it can also provide guidance, support, and unexpected acts of kindness. The park, now bathed in soft twilight, felt like a space of both reflection and opportunity, where fear and courage, vulnerability and strength coexist and shape the human experience, resilience. The girl reflected on the encounter with the officer, the intervention of the two men, and the support of the crowd. She realized that fear could be temporary, but courage, empathy, and kindness could leave a lasting impact. She felt grateful for the guidance and protection she had received, understanding that these moments of support could shape her perspective and confidence in profound ways. The taller man spoke softly about the importance of standing up for oneself and others, reinforcing that courage could be shown in many forms, not just through bold actions, but through patience, empathy, and advocacy. His companion added that understanding the perspectives of others could lead to more compassionate and effective responses to conflict. The girl absorbed these lessons, feeling a sense of empowerment and clarity about her place in the world. As the sun dipped lower, casting warm golden light across the park, the girl rose from the bench. She felt a renewed sense of strength and determination, ready to continue navigating the world with confidence. The taller man and his companion stayed close, providing support and reassurance, but allowing her the independence she had earned through her experience. The day, which had begun as an ordinary afternoon, had transformed into something unforgettable. The girl had faced fear, experienced protection, and learned valuable lessons about courage, empathy, and human connection. She knew that these experiences would stay with her, guiding her through future challenges and reminding her that even in difficult moments there are people willing to stand up for what is right. The park, with its familiar sounds and textures, felt more welcoming than ever, a space of both challenge and opportunity, fear and courage, vulnerability and strength. That courage and kindness could appear just as quickly, even from unexpected sources. The officer, now distant, appeared contemplative, perhaps realizing the impact of his actions. The crowd began to disperse, some nodding and offering quiet smiles to the girl as they passed. She felt a gentle warmth in her chest, a mix of relief and newfound confidence. The day continued, the sun moving across the sky, casting shifting patterns of light and shadow on the paths around her. The girl stood, her cane tapping gently on the pavement as she began to navigate the park once more. She could still feel the presence of the two men nearby, a quiet reassurance that lingered even as they disappeared from view. In that moment, she understood that the world could be both challenging and beautiful, filled with moments of fear and unexpected acts of protection. She smiled softly to herself, feeling stronger, more resilient, and grateful for the people who had stepped in to make a difference when it mattered most. The park, once again calm, seemed to embrace her with its familiar sounds and scents. The girl moved forward, each step steady and confident, carrying with her the memory of compassion, courage, and the reminder that even in difficult moments, there are those who will stand up for what is right. And though she had faced fear, she had also witnessed the power of human kindness, a lesson that would stay with her long after the sun began to set.